Everest Live. And that's a wrap on the Everest climbing season for 2026. Kind of. This is your final dispatch for June 1st. We've got more content coming to you. But in terms of Everest news, things now are completely shut down on the mountain. There was a number, I think 3 climbers with Summit Climb and Dan Mazur that were stuck at Camp 2 for a number of days. They were not well enough to get down through the icefall. The icefall is also being, or is already, deconstructed. And they were waiting for good weather. We learned yesterday that they were finally helivaced off the mountain. And that means Everest is now completely and totally closed. In summary, there were 5 deaths this season with 1,008 summits is the preliminary number. That's not totally official, but we're seeing huge numbers and relatively low deaths. It's good stuff. We would love the death number to be 0. And these are things that we'll continue to work on in the coming years. Yesterday, I apologize to everyone. I said we were going to be doing these live interviews and all this cool stuff at the U.S. Embassy Ascent Summit here in Kathmandu. I didn't get to it because there were 1,400 people there and every one of them wanted to shake my hand at our booth. So we were just super busy networking, talking, having a panel discussion. It was a great day. One of the things that came of it was it was a good time to network and mingle with a lot of people in the Department of Tourism and in the Nepal Mountaineering Association, the Nepal Tourism Board. And the consensus is, amongst the people in the bureaucracy here in Nepal, that there's an appetite to do something different and do something better in the coming years. There's an appetite to potentially limit permit numbers, to add these kind of, experience quotients or requirements or that kind of stuff. Of course, it's a moving target. It's a work in progress. But I talked to a lot of leading officials last night, and there was an agreement from all of them that something needs to be done. This is bureaucracy like anywhere. That shit's gonna take time. But I was really impressed, honestly, with the attitude, the foresight, and the eagerness to make Everest better year upon year. Other news on the mountain, we hadn't been following Josh with Project Unbreakable, who was the gentleman who was supposed to find the world's highest base jump exit. We did hear that Josh did summit, and he's come back down safely, but he didn't find his exit. So no base jumping happened. It was just an ordinary Everest summit. And the last highlight you might have seen today, I reposted a piece about some kayakers going down the Dud Kosi, which is the river below Mount Everest. And that's a project with some friends of ours, Ang Lama, who found the duck, and Chandra Ale and Chandra's sons had this quest to climb Everest and then kayak all the way down to the Bay of Bengal. Chandra didn't summit, but his son did. And now they're kayaking their way down this incredibly difficult river. And this adventure is going to continue for another few weeks until they make their way all the way down to the Bay of Bengal. We'll be checking in and following with them. It's really cool to see. They're super scrappy. They don't have enough money. They're just going for it. And it's wonderful to see that kind of initiative and excitement happening in adventure today. So good luck, Chandra and the team. We're rooting for you. And then in other kind of Everest news, the only other thing is Nepal just released its budget. This budget comes from the new government, which everybody is super hopeful about. And in that budget, they allocated, I think, something like 4 billion rupees to put an astrological observatory at Everest Base Camp. And this is going to be my rant today. The whole idea is let's make this a tourist attraction. Let's make it for astrotourism. Everest Base Camp's at high altitude, this clear skies. That's great. Everest Base Camp is on a glacier. Everest Base Camp moves. There really isn't a whole lot of stable ground up there to put that on. So feasibility-wise, doesn't seem very well thought through. But on the other hand, too, I just feel like there's so much tourism and economic activity focused on Everest, and there are so many 6,000 meter plateaus and peaks and glaciers and areas all across the country. Maybe something like that kind of tourism could be put somewhere where it would have a greater economic impact. That's my 2 cents. But this ambitious budget from the new Nepal government is showing indications that they are trying very hard to transform Nepal's status of a sort of a least developed nation to becoming something that's a real economic player, to becoming something that's focused on exports. It's a super ambitious plan, and you have to give them credit for putting it together and putting it forward. Hopefully this is going to mean good things for Nepal in the future. There are good things in the future coming for Everest Live, including a lot more content that we just basically were too tired to edit and put together when we were at base camp. That's going to be coming out in the coming weeks. We've got all sorts of cool podcasts lined up. I'm coming up with a coverage plan for Pakistan and more exciting stuff after that. So stay tuned, like and subscribe. Thank you everybody who came and saw us at the Ascent Summit yesterday. And thanks to everybody who's been following us all season. We appreciate you. We'll talk to you soon.